Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. My name is Daniel Harper. I am 34 years old, head of security for Ridgeview Mall on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio. I have worked Black Friday for 8 years in a row. I thought I knew chaos. I thought I knew what a bad day looked like. I was wrong. Ridgeview is one of those big, regional malls you pass off Interstate 70 without really noticing it. 2 levels, anchor stores on each corner, a parking garage on the north side, a food court at the west end, a small play area for kids near Center Court, and a ring of chain stores filling in the gaps. On a normal weekday, you have walkers doing laps and bored teenagers scrolling their phones on the benches. On Black Friday, it turns into a moving wall of people, shopping bags, and coffee. We were fully staffed, 4 full-time officers, 6 part-time, plus me as supervisor. We had hired 2 off-duty deputies from the county sheriff's office to stand by at the main doors of the electronics anchor store on the lower level. We had first aid kits restocked, radios charged, spare batteries in the charging rack, and the CCTV monitors already showing long lines snaking across the parking lot before the sun came up. I was in the security office at 5 in the morning with a paper cup of coffee, watching the feeds. Our office is on the service corridor behind the food court. No windows, just a doorway into the back hallway and a wall of screens. We have a recorder system that splits the mall into quadrants. I had camera views of every entrance, both levels, the parking garage ramps, and the service corridors. Another monitor showed the fire panel. Another one showed the building management system, power status, emergency generator status, air handling units, and doors tied into the alarm. "Morning, boss," Malik said as he came in, shrugging off his jacket. He was 26. Former Army, now one of our full-time officers. "Parking lot's already a mess." "Good morning," I said. "You on east side or west side today?" "West with Jenna," he said, reaching for a radio off the charger rack. "Food court, escalators, kids area, all the fun spots." I checked the duty roster clipped to the board. "All right, stay on channel 1 unless we go to emergency. Keep your body camera on. We'll log everything." He nodded, clipped the radio and camera to his uniform, and headed out into the back hallway. I watched him on the monitor as he stepped through the service door into the food court, swallowed by early shoppers already camped out with fast food breakfast. By 6 in the morning, the mall opened its main doors. We synchronized with the anchors. The electronics store on the lower level, Tech Hub, had a line down the sidewalk, people bundled in jackets, holding paper flyers and phones. The big box sporting goods store on the upper level, Summit Sports, was ready for their own rush. I could see the 2 off-duty deputies at the Tech Hub entrance, both with visible sidearms in retention holsters. They were there mostly for show, to discourage stampedes. Black Friday has a rhythm. First wave hits the electronics store, second wave goes to clothing and shoes. By mid-morning, the strollers and families roll in. There are arguments about televisions, heaters, and video game consoles. There are shoplifters who think we do not see them on camera. There are people who pass out from standing in line all night. It is loud, but it is familiar. This time, there was something else. At about 6:25, I noticed an alert on my phone while I was forwarding the incident log from last week to the mall manager. It was a push notification from a news app. Unusual illness reported at multiple hospitals. The preview line mentioned aggressive behavior and bite-related injuries. I glanced at it, assumed it was another headline written to get clicks, and swiped it away. The mall did not care about national news at 6:30 in the morning. The mall cared about people not falling down escalators. At 7:10, the first call came over the radio. "Control, this is Jenna at West Side near kids area," her voice said in my earpiece. "We have a disturbance between 2 customers, possibly a fight, requesting backup." I reached for the microphone. "Copy, Jenna. Who's closest?" "This is Malik. I'm 50 feet away," he said. "I see a crowd." "Malik, respond. Keep them separate. I'm watching cameras now," I said. I switched the main monitor to the west side camera and zoomed in digitally. On the screen, a small circle of people had formed near the indoor playground. I saw a man in a grey hoodie on the floor and a woman in a red jacket trying to pull him up. Another man, tall, wearing a dark coat, was on top of the man in the hoodie, moving in a strange way. It did not look like a regular fight. There was something uncoordinated about it, like he was trying to hold the man down, but did not quite know how. Jenna pushed through the onlookers first, her yellow security patch visible on the back of her jacket. Malik came in from the other side. They both had their hands up in the standard calming gesture, saying something I could not hear over the ambient noise. Then I saw the woman in the red jacket jerk backward. She let out a sharp scream that was loud enough to pick up on the camera's tiny microphone. The tall man turned his head toward her in a quick, unnatural motion. He moved with a speed that did not match the slow awkwardness from a moment before. "Control, he just bit her," Jenna's voice snapped through the radio, suddenly higher pitched. "He just bit her on the arm. She's bleeding. I need medical and law enforcement at West Side, kids area, right now." My stomach tightened. You get used to certain phrases in security. We have a slip and fall, shoplifting in progress, possible missing child. You do not get used to hearing that someone has been bitten by a stranger in the middle of the mall. "Copy, Jenna, Malik." "Separate them," I said. "Use verbal commands only. Do not put hands on him unless you have no choice. Off-duty deputies, move from Tech Hub to West Side Kids area now. I repeat, now." I grabbed the landline and hit the speed dial for 911. The phone rang once, then twice, then a third time. That was unusual. Usually the call picked up right away. On the screen, Malik stepped between the tall man and the woman in the red jacket, palms forward. The tall man's face was turned slightly away from the camera. His movements were strange. He did not stand upright. His shoulders were tense and twisted. He made a motion toward Malik like he was going to lean on him. "Sir, you need to back up," Malik was saying. The camera audio caught it now that he was closer. "Keep your hands to yourself. Security, back up." The tall man did not respond. He took another step forward. The 911 operator picked up. "Franklin County, 911. What is your emergency?" "This is Daniel Harper, security supervisor at Ridgeview Mall," I said, watching the screen. "We have a disturbance on the west side near the kids area. A male just bit a female shopper. We need officers and EMS. The subject is not responding to verbal commands." "Copy, Ridgeview Mall, west side by kids area," she repeated, her tone steady but quick. "Is the subject armed?" "Not that I can see," I said. On screen, the tall man lurched closer. Malik put a hand on the man's chest to hold him back. The man's response was not the usual shove or grab. He simply leaned into Malik with his full weight, arms reaching for his shoulders, face pushing forward. "Sir, back up," Malik said. His free hand went to his radio mic. "Control, he is not complying. He is trying to bite again." "I see it," I said. 4 units en route," the operator said in my other ear. "Do you want an ambulance staged?" "Yes. Send EMS to the same entrance," I said. "Victim has a bite wound to the forearm." "Copy," she said. "Stay on the line." On the monitor, Malik shifted his balance and shoved the man backward in a controlled way, sending him off his feet and onto the padded floor near the play area. For a moment, everyone around them froze. The woman in the red jacket was holding her forearm, staring at it like she could not believe what she was seeing. Jenna had one arm around her shoulders, trying to move her out of the immediate area. Then the tall man on the ground started to get back up. Not like a regular person, bracing with one hand, pushing to his knees. He rolled awkwardly, legs kicking, shoulders pulling, body twisting like something was wrong with his joints. His head snapped up. His eyes did not seem to focus on anything. His mouth opened and closed as he forced himself up off the floor. "Jenna, get the victim behind you," I said into the radio. "Malik, maintain distance. Deputies are en route." I'm telling him to stay down, sir, Malik said, a small edge creeping into his voice. He is not listening. 2 deputy sheriffs came into frame from the right side, uniforms and duty belts obvious even in the moving crowd. One of them, Deputy Ruiz, was a regular at our off-duty shifts. He had been doing these details for years. He drew his expandable baton and extended it with a snap, keeping it low but ready. Sir, stay on the ground, he commanded the tall man. You are going to be restrained if you do not comply. Do you understand? The tall man did not answer. He forced himself fully upright, then lunged toward Malik again with outstretched hands. The deputy moved in fast, baton up, placed a blow to the man's thigh. A standard pain-compliant strike. Under normal circumstances, a shot like that would at least make a person stagger. The tall man barely reacted. He stumbled from the impact and then kept moving forward with that same unsteady, relentless motion. Control, this is Ruiz. The deputy's voice came over the radio as well. We gave the off-duty officers radios tuned to our channel. Subject is not responding to pain at all. We need EMS to stage quicker. This may be drug-related. I already notified them, I said. The second deputy, a younger guy I did not know well, moved to assist. He grabbed the tall man's left arm, trying to spin him around and put him into a standard control hold. The man twisted in his grasp and snapped his head toward the deputy's forearm, teeth bared. Hey! The deputy yelled, jerking his arm away fast enough to avoid contact. He changed tactics, kicked the man in the knee, and sent him down again. The crowd had backed up now, filling the corridor behind them, phones raised, filming everything. Instead of making space, they had created a ring of bodies that trapped everyone into the center. Everyone back away from this area, Jenna shouted, trying to assert control. Please move away from the kids' area. This part of the mall is being closed temporarily. People heard the words, but did not listen. They edged closer, trying to see better. Even the woman in the red jacket seemed stuck in place, staring at the tall man on the ground with her hand clamped over her wounded arm. That was the first incident. It was not the last. By 8 o'clock, we had 3 separate bites reported. One near the shoe store on the upper level, where an older man reportedly grabbed a clerk and sank his teeth into the side of the clerk's neck before being pulled off by other shoppers. Another near the food court, where a teenager bit another teenager during an argument in the line for breakfast sandwiches. The third was the one near the kids' area that we had already responded to. Each one started the same way. Someone acting confused, wobbling as if they were dizzy, sometimes holding a side or a shoulder like they were in pain. Then a sudden focused surge toward the closest person, mouth open, grabbing and biting with full force. Law enforcement responded quickly at first. Medics moved in with gloves and eye protection, masking up even though we did not know yet what they were dealing with. The bitten were bandaged and taken away on stretchers through the service corridors. Deputies used handcuffs and restraints on the aggressors and marched them to the temporary holding room we had near the security office, waiting for transport. The problem was that for every incident we handled, 2 more started. The radio calls from field units began to blur together. Control, disturbance at food court again. Copy, disturbance, unit en route. Control, this is Dave on upper level north. We have a person on the floor, possible seizure, but he just bit someone trying to help him. Copy, Dave, hold. Any nearby unit respond. The crowd did not thin out. It grew. The morning rush turned into a mid-morning crush. More people came in through the entrances, unaware of the problems inside. The mall manager, Christine, came down to the security office and stood behind me, arms folded tight, watching the monitors with a pale face. Should we close the mall? She asked quietly. If we announce closure right now, we will have full panic, I said. We need law enforcement guidance. We do not know what this is yet. I glanced at my phone. There were more alerts now. Headlines from local TV stations. Words like widespread incident, unusual attacks, hospitals overloaded. One push notification said that law enforcement was advising people in certain neighborhoods to stay indoors. I called 911 again, this time on my cell phone while the landline hung by its cord. 911, what is your emergency? This is Daniel Harper at Ridgeview Mall again, I said. We now have multiple people exhibiting the same aggressive behavior. We have at least 7 injured by bites, maybe more. We need direction on whether to close the building. Sir, there is a high call volume, the operator said, sounding more strained than earlier. Officers are responding as quickly as they can. You should keep people calm and follow any instructions from officers on scene. We have 4 deputies on site and they are overwhelmed, I said. Do you have any citywide guidance about this illness? Is it airborne, contact-based? Do we keep people here or push them out? I'm not authorized to provide medical advice, she said, sounding like she was reading from a script now. You should instruct your staff to avoid contact with anyone that's showing aggressive behavior or signs of illness. If you have the ability to isolate areas, please do that. We will note your request for additional units. The line clicked as another dispatch tone overrode our conversation. She said she had to answer and put me on hold. I listened to the recorded music play through the tiny speaker for 20 seconds before I hung up. Christine, I said to the mall manager, who was still behind me, we are on our own right now. She swallowed, nodded once, and looked at the monitors again. What do you suggest? I looked at the camera feeds. The mall was a moving mass of people. In some sections, the groups flowed normally, people carrying shopping bags, sipping drinks. In other spots, especially near the food court and the mid-mall area, there were clusters of people standing still or circling around some unseen event. One camera, positioned above the upper level near Summit Sports, showed a person on the floor surrounded by 4 others trying to hold him down. We had to make a choice. We close individual sections first, I said. We pull down roll-down gates where we can, shut fire doors where we can, and move people out of the worst areas. We keep as many exits clear as possible. We do not announce any illness over the PA, we just talk about a safety issue. If we yell about infection, this place will turn into a stampede. She nodded again. Do it. I picked up the PA microphone connected to the mall's sound system and hit the zone selection keys, choosing only the food court and west side. Attention all shoppers, I said, hearing my own voice echo faintly through the microphones. Due to a safety issue, the west side of the mall is temporarily unavailable. Please move east towards Center Court and follow instructions from staff and security. Food court operations will pause while we address the issue. Thank you for your cooperation. On the screens, I watched people look up, confused, as the message came through. Some followed instructions and began drifting east. Others ignored it and kept standing in line. A few started asking loud questions that I could see in their body language, but could not hear. Control, this is Malik, the radio crackled. We are trying to clear the food court, but we have at least 4 people here acting like that first guy. They're trying to grab anyone close to them. Fall back to the service corridor if you can, I said. Encourage staff to close their own gates. Tell them to get behind counters. I switched the screen to the food court camera. One of the lines was broken. People were backing away from a person standing at the center of a widening circle. He had stains all over the front of his sweatshirt. His arms were slack at his sides. His head hung forward, then jerked up, then snapped toward the nearest moving person in short, sharp motions. His body moved, like all his joints were out of sync. When he stepped, it was with a heavy, unsteady stride, but he did not seem to feel any pain. He reached for a woman who was trying to collect 2 children and edge away. A nearby fast food worker, still in a uniform cap, swung a plastic tray at his arm, trying to break the grip. The man flinched but did not let go. He pivoted toward the worker with his mouth open. Malik, you need to push a path through and get those kids out, I said. Do not let him grab them. I'm moving, Malik said, his voice tight. Deputy Ruiz came into view again, baton out. He moved with purpose, striking the man's arm where he held the woman. The grip broke. The woman stumbled back, pulling the kids with her. Malik and Jenna moved in, helping them toward the exit. The man turned toward Ruiz. If he felt the baton strike, he did not show it. His only response was a direct, unhesitating attempt to close the distance again. Ruiz looked like he was making a calculation. You could see it in his stance. The baton strike had not worked. Verbal commands were useless. Pain compliance might as well not exist. The man kept coming, arms reaching, mouth open. "Control, this is Ruiz," he said on the radio. "We need a different level of force here. These people are not responding to anything." There was a pause on the channel. I knew he was looking for authorization without saying it directly in front of the crowd. "Ruiz, you are sworn law enforcement," I said. "Use the minimum force that will protect lives. Document everything. My cameras are recording." That was the most I could say without telling him, over an open channel, to do what we both knew might be necessary. Before he could act on it, the situation changed somewhere else, in a way that made all the earlier incidents feel small. It started in Summit Sports. Summit is one of those large sporting goods stores that has everything from treadmill machines and exercise bikes to camping gear, fishing rods, and firearms. In our mall, the firearms section is on the upper level at the back, behind a waist-high barrier, with glass cases and a dedicated counter. The ammunition is in locked cabinets. The firearms are secured with cable locks and stored unloaded. There is a safe in the back room for certain models. The store follows state and federal law. Background checks are run through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. It is all very controlled. On Black Friday, they run sales on everything else: jackets, boots, coolers, bicycles. The gun counter is usually busy in the afternoon, not first thing in the morning. At 8:30, a call came over the radio from Dave, one of our part-time officers. "Control, this is Dave. I'm on upper level outside Summit Sports. There is a large crowd inside, and people are pushing toward the back of the store. I think someone shouted about guns. The staff is trying to keep people out of that area, but it is getting rough. I need another unit." "Copy, Dave," I said. "Who can assist on upper level north?" "This is Kevin. I'm 2 stores down," another voice said. "On my way." I pulled up the Summit Sports cameras. The store has its own internal system, but we have 2 more cameras in the hallway outside, and one that looks down into the entry area. The view inside was limited, but I could see people moving in a way that triggered every warning in my head. This was not a normal shopping rush. People were pushing toward the back, climbing over merchandise displays, some looking back over their shoulders toward the mall corridor. I switched to the camera in the hallway directly outside Summit. Dave was standing near the entrance, trying to keep the line of waiting shoppers from turning into a full-on surge. His radio was on his shoulder, his other hand out in the universal slow-down gesture. "Control, I just heard a shot," he said suddenly, his voice jumping. "Inside Summit, 1 shot, maybe 2, sounded like from the back." My hand clenched on the microphone. "Summit staff, this is more security," I said into the radio, switching to the store channel we have for emergencies. "Do you copy?" There was no answer, just the crackle of interference. "Control, this is Jenna." Another call came in at the same time. "We just heard that shot from the food court too. People are starting to panic." "Dave, do not let people flood into the store," I said. "You and Kevin redirect anyone who tries to go in. Deputies, can you move north to Summit?" "We are tied up at the food court," Ruiz answered. "We have injured everywhere. I do not have a clear path to you right now." On the monitors, people were starting to spill out of Summit, some running, some walking quickly, with wide eyes. A couple of them had their phones pressed to their ears. I tried the Summit store line on the phone system. No answer. "Dave, stay outside the entrance," I said. "Do not go in alone. Keep the doors clear. If anyone has visible weapons in their hands, tell them to set them down and step aside." "Yes, sir," he said, but his voice had lost its usual calm. I could see him breathing faster. In the background, behind the people coming out, I caught a glimpse of someone moving along the back walkway inside Summit. What I saw made my brain misfire for a second. It was a person in a Summit Sports employee polo, maybe mid-20s, moving fast and unsteady, eyes wide and unfocused. He was holding a long object that looked like a rifle, but it was not shouldered properly. It was clutched against his chest, barrel angled upward, fingers near the trigger, but his hands were slack. His shirt front was stained. People were backing away from him inside the store. Someone tried to grab the rifle from him. He twisted, shoved, and the person fell. That made the decision for me. "Christine, lock down," I said to the mall manager. "We have possible discharge of a firearm inside Summit, possibly tied to this illness. We cannot control this with the current crowd." She stared at the screen, then nodded. "Do it." I hit the emergency macro on the building management keyboard. It was a function we had tested for fire drills and active threat scenarios, but never used for real. It signaled the fire doors to close in stages, the roll-down security grills at the main intersections to start coming down, and the parking garage gates to move to a controlled exit mode. It did not seal the building completely. It did enough to split it into zones. At the same time, I picked up the PA microphone again, this time selecting all zones. "Attention all shoppers and staff," I said, keeping my voice as calm as I could. "Due to a security incident, Ridgeview Mall is closing. Please move to the nearest exit in an orderly fashion. Follow instructions from security officers and store staff. Do not run. Leave your bags if necessary. Your safety is our priority." The words security incident were chosen very carefully. They were vague enough to cover everything we were seeing while still giving people a reason to leave. The effect was immediate. On the monitors, heads turned toward the ceiling speakers. People who were already anxious started moving faster. Some listened to the part about walking and not running. Others did not. "Control, this is Malik," his voice came through. "We just had a wave of people rush the west exit. Some fell. We're picking them up. The people who are sick are trying to move with the crowd." "Copy, Malik. Prioritize the healthy. Keep your team out of close contact as much as you can," I said. The mall, which had felt like a living thing a half hour earlier, now looked like it was shaking itself apart. Lines dissolved. Tables and chairs in the food court toppled. Strollers were abandoned. Shopping bags were left on benches and floors. The sound on the camera audio changed from general chatter to shouts, cries, and a low, constant roar of feet. Then, somewhere in the mess, the pattern broke. People stopped moving toward any organized exit and instead tried to go anywhere that was not near someone who looked sick. You could see it on the cameras. When a person with the unsteady, twisted gait of the infected appeared in a corridor, the crowd flowed away from that point, like a river around a rock. People were willing to run toward closed grills and locked doors to get away from someone who moved like that. We had passed the point where standard evacuation procedures meant anything. At some point in all of this, I realized that the mall had changed in my mind. It was no longer the property or the building. It was a map of possible routes between the people who needed help and the people who were dangerous. The security office became something else too. It became a control room in the most literal sense. I had every camera view up that would fit. Christine stood behind me, phone in hand, alternating between trying to reach corporate in another state and listening to me talk to my officers. The deputy's channel came in on another radio at my elbow. I could hear the dispatcher struggling to route units to multiple incidents across Columbus. There were reports of similar aggressive behavior in grocery stores, at a gas station, at an office building downtown. Words like state of emergency and stay at home if possible started to pop up on the scrolling banner of a local news station, visible in the corner of one screen. My officers were doing what they could, but they were tired already, and it was not even 10 in the morning. "Control, this is Jenna. I have at least 5 minors here who lost their parents in the evacuation. We're in the small play area near Center Court," she said. In the background, I could hear kids crying. "What do you want me to do with them?" "Bring them to security," I said immediately. Use the service corridors. Avoid open hallways. Any staff who cannot safely exit should move toward the security office as well. Copy, she said. Control, this is Malik, he said a moment later. We have 3 food court workers who cannot get to their cars. They want to know what to do. Same answer, I said. Bring them in the back way. Control, this is Dave up by Summit, he cut in. We have a bigger problem here. I switched one of the monitors back to the Summit hallway. The roll-down gate that was supposed to close off that section was only halfway down. Something had blocked it. I could see boxes and a pushed-over display wedged underneath. On the other side of that half-closed gate, there was a cluster of people trapped in the corridor. I told them not to push through, Dave said, his breathing heavy. They did not listen. Some of them crawled under the gate before it stopped. Now it is stuck. We have sick people trapped on the far side with them. I can hear them screaming. His radio transmitted a background of panicked sounds that did not match anything we had trained for. Dave, fall back to the cross corridor, I said. You cannot clear that alone. Do not try to crawl under that gate. It could come down on you, and then you are stuck. But they are. I know, I said, my throat tightening. You cannot help anyone if you get trapped too. Fall back. Direct anyone still on your side of the gate to move toward the nearest exit. Silence for a second, then a rough copy, and the sound of his footsteps retreating. The mall's power flickered. The monitors blinked off, then on again. The overhead lights in the corridors cycled, some going out entirely, others coming back dimmer. The building management screen flashed an alert. Utility power unstable. Generator standby activated. We might lose regular power, I told Christine. The generator will cover emergency lighting, fire systems, and some of the cameras, but not everything. Is this the grid or something inside the mall? She asked. I do not know, I said, but the city is probably drawing heavy right now with everything going on. Another alert popped up on the fire panel display. Multiple alarms. Door held open. Smoke detection. The list of zones scrolled fast, too fast. I silenced the panel, knowing it would start yelling again in 30 seconds if the conditions did not change. What does that mean? Christine asked. It means people are forcing doors open that are supposed to stay closed, and there is smoke somewhere, I said. It might be panic pulling at fire doors. It might be someone setting something on fire. She stared at the red text on the panel. This is not controllable anymore, is it? No, I said, not in the usual way. We were supposed to protect property and life. The order was always life first, then property. At that moment, it was clear that the property part of the equation was slipping away completely. Daniel, Christine said quietly, at what point do you stop trying to hold this together and just get out? I looked at the screens again. I saw Malik guiding a cluster of food court workers into a service corridor, his posture keeping distance from anyone whose movements looked wrong. I saw Jenna holding the hands of 2 crying kids as she hustled them past a closed shoe store, scanning the intersection ahead before moving through. I saw Dave, shoulders hunched, escorting a few shoppers down a stairwell toward an exit door that had an alarm line message flashing above it. If we just walk away, everyone inside who does not know where they are going is going to be caught between these sick people and locked doors, I said. We can still help some of them. We cannot help everyone. If we stay focused and smart, we can do both. Get people out and then get ourselves out before this place is completely gone. She swallowed hard. What is your plan? I want to make the security office a rally point, I said, voice picking up some strength as the picture formed in my head. We pull staff, and as many lost people as we can, into the back corridors. We close off what we can behind us. When we hit a critical number, or the building becomes too unstable, we move as a group to the loading docks and then out to the perimeter road. The more organized we are, the better our chances. You are talking about making the mall itself a barrier, she said. Yes, I said. It is already becoming something else. Look at it. We both watched the main overview camera. The empty spaces were shrinking. The people who were sick did not tire. They did not slow. They kept moving after anyone who was still able. And if someone fell, I saw them bend low over that person in a way that made my skin crawl. I made a decision I still think about at night. I turned my back on the main concourses and focused my attention on the back corridors where I knew we still had a chance. By 11 a.m., the public-facing parts of Ridgeview Mall were no longer ours. The back side was still ours, at least for a while. The service corridors in a mall are like the secret veins behind the skin. Narrow hallways run behind every store, connecting to receiving areas, storage rooms, and electrical closets. You can move the length of the building without ever stepping into the customer areas. I had walked those halls almost every day for 8 years. I knew where the cameras were and where they were not. I knew which doors stuck and which ones never shut fully. I knew which anchors had doors that led into stairwells and which had direct access to the loading docks. Now those hallways became our emergency routes. Everyone moving to security uses the back corridors only, I said into the radio. If you are in a store and you can lock your front gate, do it. Then go out your back door into the service hall and head toward the food court receiving area. That is where we are. As if summoned by my words, the door to the service hall opened, and Jenna came in with 5 kids and 2 adults. The kids were between 5 and 10 years old, all with tear tracks on their faces. One clutched a stuffed toy. The adults were a couple who had been at the kids' play area, both looking shocked. "Control, we're at your door," Jenna said into the radio, even as she opened it. "Come in," I said, standing up from the desk for the first time in what felt like hours. The security office filled quickly. Malik came in with 3 food court staff members, all in branded shirts and aprons. One of them had a bandage on her cheek from where someone had swung an elbow in panic. Dave arrived with an elderly couple and a teenager who had been separated from his friends. Kevin brought in a Summit Sports cashier who had fled when she heard the shot at the back of the store. The space that usually felt cramped with 2 officers now felt overcrowded. "We cannot fit everyone in here," Christine said, looking around. "We will not stay in this room," I said. "This is a staging point. Once we have everyone we can safely collect, we are moving." "Moving where?" the Summit cashier asked, voice shaking. Her name tag said Megan. "To the loading docks," I said. "From there to the perimeter road and off the property." "What about outside?" one of the food court workers asked. His name was Luis. He had made my breakfast sandwich earlier that morning. "What if it is the same as in here?" "Then we choose a direction and keep moving," I said. "But inside the mall, we are losing control fast. We cannot stay here. We do not have supplies or solid doors in this office. The walls are drywall. The locks are standard. If the wrong group reaches this section, it will not hold." One of the kids began to cry harder. Jenna crouched down beside her. "We are going to walk through some hallways," Jenna said gently. "We will stay together. You can hold my hand if you want. Do you like flashlights?" The little girl nodded through her tears. Jenna took a small flashlight from her belt and clicked it on. The beam cut through the room. "You can be in charge of this one," she said, placing it in the girl's hand. "Your job is to make sure the front of our group is bright enough." The girl nodded again, now focusing on the light instead of her fear. Christine looked at me. "We should document who is here," she said, clinging to protocol where she could. "Names, contact numbers, something." I almost said we did not have time. Then I saw the pleading look in some of the parents' eyes. They wanted to believe that someone would call a number later and say, "We have your kids. They are safe." They needed that line to the world beyond this building. "All right," I said, "but it has to be fast." We grabbed a legal pad and went down the line. Name, rough age, and 1 phone number for a relative if possible. Some people did not know numbers by heart anymore because they relied on their phones. Some wrote without thinking. Some hands shook too much to write legibly, so we scribbled for them. By the time we finished, we had 19 people beyond our own staff, 8 kids, 11 adults. "Where are the deputies?" I asked over the radio. "Control, this is Ruiz," he answered after a long pause. In the background, I heard a mix of engine noise and distant sirens. We were directed by dispatch to escort a group out to the south parking lot. We have about 20 civilians with us. We're at the far edge of the property now, near the bus stop. Can you circle back to the loading docks on the west side? I asked. There was another pause. Negative, control, he said. The situation between us and you is not passable anymore. The infected are too dense in the corridors. Some of them are outside in the parking lot too. They're walking between cars. We're going to keep moving away from the mall with this group. You should do the same when you can. The word infected hung in the air. It was the first time someone on our channel had used it. Understood, I said quietly. Stay safe. You too, he replied. The channel clicked. The realization landed heavy in the room. There would be no rear guard coming to meet us halfway. We were alone inside Ridgeview. Okay, I said, louder now. Here is what we are going to do. I stepped to the whiteboard on the wall, erased the leftover notes from last week's shoplifting incident summary, and drew a rough outline of the mall, a rectangle with X marks where the anchors were. I shaded in the food court, marked the security office, and drew a zigzag line representing the service corridor network between us and the west loading dock. This is where we are, I said, tapping the security office. This is where we are going. I tapped the loading dock. The service corridor from here runs behind 3 mid-mall stores, then hits a cross hall. If we take that cross hall to the right, it leads to the emergency stairwell, which goes down to the ground level and to the loading dock exit doors. If any of the main fire doors in that path are closed, we have keys. We can open them. If any infected are in that path, we have to avoid close contact. We do not have enough protective gear to do anything else. What about weapons? Malik asked. His eyes flicked to the locked cabinet in the corner of the office where we kept our baton and restraint extras. We have our issued batons, I said. We have OC spray, which may or may not affect these people. We have first aid kits. No firearms. Armed force inside the corridors is a last resort. Ricochets in concrete hallways are not something we want with kids here. Our focus is movement and avoidance. I saw a couple of people in the room who had been looking to hear that we secretly had a whole arsenal somewhere. They looked disappointed. At the same time, a few parents looked relieved. What about Summit? Megan asked quietly. There were those shots. If the shots were from someone trying to stop the infected in that store, then that fight is already decided, I said, forcing the words out. We cannot go near that side. Our path is away from it. The room was silent for a long second. Okay, Malik said. Let's move. We split into 3 groups within one column. I took the front with Malik and Jenna, with the little girl holding the flashlight between us. Behind us came the cluster of kids and parents, with Kevin and Dave walking on the outer edges, watching for any movement in the side corridors. Christine stayed toward the back with the food court staff and Megan from Summit. Luis carried a red first aid kit slung over one shoulder. I unlocked the office door, took a breath, and stepped into the service corridor. The service corridor was cooler than the public areas. The overhead lights were standard fluorescent fixtures, some humming, some flickering. The floor was plain concrete. The walls were painted off-white, scuffed from years of delivery carts. Doors to store-back rooms were evenly spaced on one side. On the other, there were alcoves for mechanical rooms, electrical panels, and fire equipment. We moved in single file at first, then spread out slightly when we had space. Our radios were turned down low so that the kids would not hear every anxious transmission from whoever was still out in the mall. We passed the back door to a clothing store. It was closed and locked, light glowing under the edge. Someone inside moved close to the door, then away again, too quickly for us to see a face. I resisted the impulse to knock. Bringing more people into our column without knowing their condition could be dangerous. We need to keep moving, I said softly. The little girl with the flashlight swung the beam ahead, illuminating the intersection where the corridor met a cross hall. The vertical red line of a fire door was visible, standing open. Hold up, I said, raising a hand. We stopped a few paces short of the intersection. I listened. The hum of the lights and the faint whisper of the building's air system were the only sounds. "Malik, check the cross hall left," I said. "Jenna right. Stay in visual contact. Do not round a corner fully until you have to." They both nodded and moved forward, staying close to the wall, leaning just enough around the frame to look. "Left looks clear to the next fire door," Malik said after a moment. "Right is clear to the stairwell door," Jenna said. She pointed to a grey metal door with a panic bar. A red sign above it read, "Exit stairs." "That is our route," I said. "We take the cross hall to that stairwell, then go down one level, then through the loading dock hallway. Let's go." We turned right, the group moving as a single unit now. The kids were quieter than I expected. Fear had taken away the energy that usually makes them bounce and whisper in groups. Their shoes made small sounds on the concrete. Midway down the cross hall, we passed an open door to a storage room. Inside, I saw towers of cardboard boxes and hanging racks of clothing. No movement. Then we heard something ahead. A sound like someone breathing heavily through their mouth, mixed with a low, irregular groan. I held up my hand again. We stopped. The sound came from beyond the stairwell door. There was no window in it. We could not see the landing. "Everyone stay here," I whispered. "Jenna, come with me." We moved forward to the door. I placed my ear against the metal, listening. The sound was clearer now. Heavy footsteps on concrete. Something dragging. A dull impact, like a shoulder bumping into a wall. "Is that on the stairs or in the hallway beyond?" Jenna whispered. "I cannot tell," I said. If the infected had reached the stairwell, our direct route to the loading dock was compromised. We could try another stairwell on the east side, but that meant a longer route, more intersections, and more chances to run into pockets of infection. I took a slow breath. "Back up a little," I told Jenna. "If something pushes through, you are in position to redirect the group." She nodded and moved back a few steps, her hand resting near her baton. I put one hand on the panic bar and pushed it down carefully, letting the latch release slowly so there would be as little noise as possible. Then I opened the door an inch and leaned in, keeping my shoulder against it in case I had to slam it shut. The stairwell was lit by emergency lights. The landing immediately beyond the door was empty. I could see down half a flight to the next landing. There, on the concrete, was a person in a janitorial uniform lying on their side. For half a second, I thought they might be just injured or unconscious. Then they moved. The movement was the same unnatural twist I had seen on the cameras. The janitor's body jerked, leg kicking against the step, hand dragging their upper body forward, their head turned, eyes staring without focus, mouth working. They were pulling themselves up the stairs inch by inch, scraping their knee on the edge of each step. There was no sign of awareness, just effort. The breathing sound we heard was theirs, forced through parted lips, irregular and too loud for the small motion they were making. I closed the door again, as quietly as I could. "Problem," Jenna whispered. "Infected on the landing below," I said. "They are coming up." "Can we get past them?" she asked. "Not with this group," I said. "If they were still, maybe, but they are moving. If someone slips or if they grab an ankle, this whole group goes down on the stairs. We cannot risk that." "What now?" Malik asked from farther back. "We take the long way," I said. "We go left at the cross corridor instead of right. There is another stairwell near the old cinema space. It is farther from the loading dock, but it might be clear. We will just have to walk." I turned to the group. "We have some debris in this stairwell," I said, choosing my words for the kids. "We cannot get past it safely. We are going to use another staircase instead. It is a little longer, but we will stay together. Keep holding hands. Keep the flashlight pointed ahead." There were no complaints, only nods and tight grips. We reversed direction down the cross hall. At the intersection, we turned left. Halfway down this hallway, our luck ran out. We heard them before we saw them. A fast, irregular shuffle of feet, a sound of something hitting a wall hard enough to make metal rattle, a breathless exhale that did not sound like someone simply tired from running. "Stop," I said quietly. The little girl halted. The beam of her flashlight held steady. The group bunched up behind her. I moved forward with Malik and Jenna, crouching slightly to look under the racks of utility pipes that ran along the ceiling. At the far end of the hall, maybe 40 feet away, a door stood open. It led into the stockroom of a mid-size electronics store. In that doorway stood a man swaying slightly, one hand braced on the frame. His shirt was torn at the shoulder. His head was tilted at an odd angle. He had not seen us yet. He was looking back into the stockroom. Inside the room behind him, we saw quick flashes of movement. Someone else was in there, moving jerkily between shelves. The man in the doorway turned his head toward the hall, sniffing the air in a rapid, shallow way. Then he took a step out, unsteady, arms slack at his sides. His eyes scanned, unfocused, but his body turned in our direction. "He is one of them," Malik murmured. "Yes," I said. "But he is alone in the hall for the moment. We cannot go around him," Jenna said. "There is no side corridor between here and the stairwell." We had a choice. We could retreat and try to find another stairwell still yet, moving deeper into the building for a chance at a clearer path, or we could try to get past this man now. If we turned back again, we risked getting trapped in a loop, always moving away from the infected we saw only to find more ahead. The kids and older adults in the group were already tired. They could not walk forever. "We handle him here," I said, the decision solidifying. "We have to. We cannot keep trying door after door." "You want to take him down?" Malik asked. "Without letting him touch anyone," I said. "Malik, Jenna, it will have to be us. Everyone else stays back." Jenna unlocked her baton and extended it with a snap. Malik did the same. I took mine from its ring. We did not train to use these against people who did not feel pain, but the strikes could still break balance, drop someone, and keep them from closing in. "Kids, stay with me," Christine said in a calm tone behind us. "Everyone stay right here against the wall. Do not move until I say so." "Luis, be ready with the first aid kit, but do not rush in unless you are called," I said without turning around. We walked forward slowly. The man exiting the stockroom lifted his head as if he heard the movement. Now that we were closer, I could see more details. His skin had a grey, clammy tone. His eyes were bloodshot. The pupils expanded. His mouth worked in small, open and close motions. There was dried fluid on his chin. His hands opened and closed as he moved, fingers flexing without purpose. "Sir," I said, raising my free hand, "stop where you are. We are here to help, but you need to stay back." There was no sign that he heard me. He did not even blink. He took another step forward, then another. His gait was uneven but steady. The only sound from him was that harsh breath. "Last warning," I said. "Stop and stay where you are." He did not. When he was 10 feet away, he lurched into a faster movement, arms lifting, head thrust forward. The motion was not coordinated like a trained attacker. It was more like a body thrown by an unseen engine. "Now," I said. Malik moved to the left, Jenna to the right, creating a shallow V with me at the center. That gave us room to angle our strikes. As the man reached toward me, I stepped aside and brought my baton down in an arc toward the outside of his knee. The impact sent his leg buckling. Malik followed with a strike to the opposite thigh. Jenna aimed for his wrist, trying to knock his reaching hand away. He dropped to one knee, but did not make any sound of pain. Instead, he twisted, reaching for Malik's pant leg with startling speed, trying to pull himself closer. "Back," I said. "Do not let him grab you." Malik hopped backward, breaking contact. The man's fingers grasped empty air. He started to push himself up again, using the wall for support. "Joints," I said. "We have to keep him from standing." We timed our strikes, hitting one leg, then the other, always from an angle, always moving out of reach immediately after the impact. The man's body did not react like a normal person's. He did not protect injured areas or shy away. He simply kept pushing forward until the structure of his own body would not allow it. After 3 more strikes to the legs, his balance finally failed completely. He fell to the floor on his side, and tried to twist himself forward with his arms. Malik aimed a blow at his upper arm. Jenna hit his shoulder. I struck his hip. The combined impacts disrupted his movement enough that he could not coordinate. "Hold," I said, chest heaving slightly. "Step back." We backed up in unison. The man continued to wriggle on the floor, fingers scraping against the concrete, head turning, mouth working. There was no sign he was going to stop any time soon, but he was no longer a direct threat to our group as long as we stayed out of reach. "What about the one in the stockroom?" Jenna asked, glancing at the open door. "We close it," I said. "We do not go in. We do not check. We close it." We moved forward as a line, hugging the wall opposite the fallen man, batons ready. As we passed the doorway, Malik reached out with his baton and pushed the door shut using the tip, then slid the vertical bolt lock down. Inside, something hit the other side of the door a second later. The frame rattled. A low growl seeped through the gap at the bottom. "Keep moving," I said, voice tight. "Do not look back." We passed the man on the floor, giving him as wide a berth as the hallway allowed. He clawed at the air but could not reach it. When we reached the stairwell at the far end, I exhaled a breath I did not know I was holding. "Everyone come forward now," I called back. Christine led the group up to us, shepherding the kids along. They kept their eyes on the flashlight beam and on Jenna's calm face. If they noticed the sounds behind them from the closed stockroom door, they did not say anything. We opened the stairwell door. This time, the landing was empty. No movement on the stairs. The emergency lights glowed a dull orange. We moved down the stairs in a slow, controlled line, keeping hands on the rail. I stayed at the front, Malik behind me, Jenna at the middle, and Kevin at the back with Christine. When we reached the lower landing, we listened again. No obvious sound of movement below. We descended one more flight and reached the door to the loading dock corridor. I pressed my ear to it. For the first time in an hour, I heard something that was not panicked voices or strange breathing. I heard air. Simple, constant air flowing through a bigger space. No shuffling feet, no impacts. "I think it is clear," I said. I opened the door. The loading dock corridor runs the length of the west side of the mall. It is wider than the service halls, built for pallets and hand trucks. Overhead, big rolling doors line the wall on the outside, each with a numbered sign and a dock plate. On the inside wall, there are metal doors leading into the backs of anchor stores, plus the fire exit to the outside. At that moment, the corridor was empty. "This is good," I said quietly. "We follow this to Dock 3. There is an exit door there that leads down a ramp to the parking lot. From there, we go to the perimeter road." We started walking. Halfway down the corridor, we passed Dock 5. The overhead door there was partially open, maybe 2 feet. A delivery pallet had been left half in, half out. Beyond it, in the gloom of the attached storage bay, I saw a figure lying on the floor near a stack of boxes. "Keep moving," I said. "Do not stop near any open doors." At Dock 4, an overhead light flickered. The power on this side seemed less stable. I glanced up at the fixture as we passed. The thought of being plunged into darkness in this hall made my skin crawl. "Flashlights on," I said. Every officer clicked on their handhelds. A couple of the adults in the group pulled up phone lights too, though I told them to conserve battery in case we needed them later. When we reached Dock 3, I saw something that almost made my knees go weak with relief. The green exit sign above the door was still lit, and the panic bar had no alarm indicator showing. That meant power to that circuit was still good. I stepped up, lifted the latch, and pushed. The door opened to a concrete ramp leading down to the west parking lot. The air that flowed in was colder than the air inside, and it carried a different set of sounds. Distant sirens, a helicopter somewhere overhead, and a low murmur of voices. I stepped out first and looked around, baton still in hand. The parking lot below the ramp was a mess. Cars sat at odd angles in the spaces, some with doors open, some with lights still on. Shopping carts were strewn about, some turned on their sides. A couple of small fires burned in trash cans near the outer edge. sending thin trails of smoke into the overcast sky. I saw movement between cars, but it was not a solid wall of infected. It was a mix. Some people were moving quickly with purpose, clearly still fully aware, carrying bags or pulling loved ones along. Others moved slowly with that same twisted gait. People who saw them tried to angle away. Closer to the building, near the sidewalk by the ramp, there were fewer people. "We can make it to the perimeter road if we move as a single group," I said. "We will be visible, but being visible is fine if we move with purpose. We cannot hide 19 people anyway." "What if those sick ones out there come toward us?" Luis asked. "If they do, we angle away and keep moving," I said. "We do not stop to engage unless we have no other choice. Distance is our best protection." I turned to the group. "This is the part where I need everyone to listen carefully," I said. "We're going to walk down this ramp, cross the parking lot in a straight line toward that row of trees by the road," I pointed. "We will stay between cars where we can, but we will not weave so much that we split up. If you see someone out there who looks unsteady, who is moving in a way that makes you uncomfortable, do not stare at them and do not walk toward them. Stay with the group. If you trip, shout so the person next to you can help you up. Do not stay on the ground." The kids were wide-eyed but nodded. The adults exchanged quick looks, then focused on me again. "Malik, take point out there," I said. "Jenna, take the left side, Dave the right. Kevin and I will cover the rear. Christine, stay with the kids in the center. Luis, you are still our medic, but do not break formation unless it is clear." "Understood," they said almost in unison. Malik stepped onto the ramp and began down. The little girl with the flashlight walked just behind him. The beam was less useful in daylight, but she held it anyway, gripping it like an anchor. We moved down the ramp and stepped into the west parking lot of Ridgeview Mall. The air outside smelled like exhaust, smoke, and something else I did not want to identify. The sky was a flat grey, heavy but not raining. The temperature was in the low 40s, which was normal for late November in Columbus, but I barely felt it. As we crossed the first row of parking spaces, a man in a business suit came running past us, heading toward the road. He glanced at our group, saw the uniforms, and almost stopped. "Is it safe out here?" he asked, breathless. "No," I said, "but it is better than inside right now. Keep moving away from the building. Stay with groups if you can. Do not approach anyone who looks sick." "Sick?" he repeated, like the word did not match what he had seen. "Yes," I said. "Go." He went. Between us and the perimeter road, I counted 4 people who moved like the infected. One was near a row of compact cars, bumping into bumpers, reaching for anyone who came too close. Another stood near a small tree, swaying, head rolling on their neck. The other 2 were walking along the main lane between sections, arms out slightly, like they were navigating by sound more than sight. "Angle left," I called quietly. "Stay together." We shifted our line slightly, giving a wide berth to the nearest infected, without making sudden movements that might draw their focus. So far, it did not seem like they responded to voices the way healthy people did. They responded more to proximity and motion. We were halfway to the road when the first one noticed us. It was the one near the row of compact cars, a woman in a heavy coat, hair hanging in front of her face. She had been bumping into a sedan, hands sliding along the metal. When we passed between 2 SUVs, something in our movement must have caught her attention. Her head snapped up. The hair fell back from her face, her eyes fixed on the column of people. She let out a sound that was not a word, more of a guttural vocalization, and started moving toward us. "Keep walking," I said. "Do not run. Stay together. Dave, keep her from reaching the center of the group." Dave stepped slightly outward, placing himself between her and the kids. He kept his baton down but ready. She closed the distance faster than I liked. Her legs moved unevenly but with no hesitation. When she was almost within arm's reach, Dave stepped backward and to the side, drawing her toward him and away from the main cluster. She changed direction, following his movement, reaching toward his face. He gave her more space, leading her around the edge of the group like a decoy. She followed, arms out. "Dave, do you need help?" I asked, watching out of the corner of my eye while trying to keep the group moving. "Not yet," he said. "Just keep them going." He kept circling, letting her follow. When we reached the last row of cars before the road, he broke off and ran toward the right, drawing her further away. She kept after him. "Dave, once we hit the road, you break off and catch up if you can," I said. "Do not let her corner you." "Copy," he said, breathing harder now. We stepped over the curb onto the strip of grass between the parking lot and the perimeter road. Cars moved along the road in fits, some accelerating fast, others braking suddenly when something in their lane caught their eye. A few people stood on the sidewalk, filming them all with their phones. We paused at the edge of the road. "Wait for a gap," Malik said. "We do not need a traffic incident too." A white SUV passed, then a pickup truck, then a gap opened. We moved as one, crossing both lanes quickly, but without sprinting, keeping the formation tight. As we stepped onto the far sidewalk, I looked back once at Ridgeview Mall. The west facade, with its big glass windows and banners advertising holiday sales, looked almost normal. If you did not know what was happening inside, you might think it was just a busy shopping day. Even with the occasional figure bumping into a parked car or wandering aimlessly, the scene kept some illusion of routine. But I knew what was behind that facade now. I knew how the corridors had turned into traps. I knew how the central courts had become arenas for something that did not feel human anymore. In my head, the mall no longer had store names or familiar landmarks. It had zones of infection, clusters of those twisted walkers, choke points where panic piled people together. It had become something else. It had become a dead zone. We moved along the perimeter road away from the mall. The group stayed tighter now, glancing back more often than forward. I kept my eyes both ahead and on the sides, watching for any sign that the infected had spread into the neighborhoods beyond the parking lots. We passed the bus stop where Deputy Ruiz had said he was earlier. It was empty now, save for a few abandoned shopping bags and a bench turned on its side. The bus schedule taped to the glass listing times to downtown, and the suburbs fluttered in the breeze. Phones started to ring. The cellular network, which had been overloaded inside the mall, seemed to breathe again on the edge of the property. Notifications started popping up on screens, incoming calls from numbers marked Mum, Home, Work. People looked at their displays, hands trembling. "Answer if you can walk and talk at the same time," I said. "Tell your people you are moving away from Ridgeview. Tell them you are not going back anytime soon." A couple of parents spoke to voices on the other end, reassuring them as best they could. One woman burst into tears mid-sentence. Christine put a hand on her shoulder and helped her keep walking. My own phone buzzed in my pocket. The screen showed a call from my sister in Cincinnati. I let it ring. "Not going to answer that?" Malik asked quietly. "If I hear her voice right now, I might stop thinking about the people in front of me," I said. "Right now we move. When we get somewhere that has 4 walls and a locked door, then I will call her back." He nodded. We reached the intersection where the perimeter road met the main access road to the interstate. The traffic light was flashing red in all directions. Cars treated it like a stop sign, barely pausing before surging through. Across the intersection, there was a low complex of warehouses and a self-storage facility. Beyond that, a strip mall with a grocery store. I could not tell from here if the grocery store was still operating or if it had descended into the same kind of chaos as Ridgeview. "Where now?" Christine asked, her voice a mix of exhaustion and determination. "We do not go to another public retail space," I said. "Not today. Too many people, too many blind corners. The warehouses might be better. Fewer windows, fewer doors. If we find one with an open dock, we can get inside and secure it." "You want to turn a warehouse into our temporary shelter," she said. "Yes," I said. "We can treat this like a storm. First we get out of the flooded area, then we find high ground, then we figure out the rest." She glanced back at Ridgeview again. "Do you think anyone is still alive in there?" she asked. "Yes," I said without hesitation. "There are always people who find their own paths, lock themselves in storage rooms, climb onto roofs. Not everyone who did not leave with us is gone, but they are trapped in a building that is no longer under any organized control." She nodded slowly. "We will have to tell someone where they are." "We will," I said. "If there is still someone out there coordinating all of this, who can act on that information, we will tell them." We walked toward the warehouses, a small column of survivors who had just crossed out of one world and into another. Behind us, the mall that had been my workplace, my routine, my second home, stood against the grey sky. Its lights flickered, its parking lot slowly emptied of the living and filled with those who did not move like themselves anymore. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.